So the phrase Nintendo Switch 2 has pretty much been coined as the way of referring to Nintendo's next generation system, as of course it's much easier to just say Switch 2 than it is to say unnamed next generation Nintendo Switch successor. I don't want to say that every single time, and obviously I can just say Switch 2 and everybody knows we're talking about the next Nintendo system. But more than likely, this next system isn't probably just going to be called the Nintendo Switch 2, as Nintendo has never really been the type to use a lot of numbers in terms of their sequel systems that are successors to previous ones, or just even numbers in general. Like, compared to PlayStation, you don't need to be a genius to figure out that the next system is going to be called a PlayStation 6, and then the one after that will be called the PlayStation 7. Like, they've been using numbers for the longest time. But Nintendo has always been different with like naming stuff like the NES, and then having the Super Nintendo, and then having the N64 and then the GameCube and the Wii. Like, they've always kind of had different names, so it's pretty likely that we're not going to just see it called the Nintendo Switch 2, but there's probably still going to be a little bit of a different naming scheme to it compared to what we've been used to. Honestly, I think the only time Nintendo has used numbers in terms of their system names is of course for the Nintendo 64 and then also the Nintendo 3DS. And for both of these, it wasn't because of it being a successor to a previous system, because instead they would have just called it like the Super Nintendo 2 or the Nintendo DS 2 or something like that, but instead it's actually referring to the system itself, as the Nintendo 64 is a 64-bit system, and then of course the Nintendo 3DS is using stereoscopic 3D, so because of that the number 3D, or like the naming scheme 3D, is built into the name of the system itself. Otherwise, like I said, it would have just been called the DS2 if they really wanted it to be like the successor to the Nintendo DS. Now, we also know officially from Nintendo's president, Mr. Furukawa, that the official way to describe the Nintendo Switch successor would be Switch Next Model, according to his own words. So if he's using the word Switch to even describe this system, then more than likely, I mean, also just going off of all of the rumors and leaks and things that we've heard about leading up to this, they've all been just saying that it's going to be just like the current Nintendo Switch, but there's going to be some more bells and whistles and better features to it, and just be a better Nintendo Switch system in general. And so because of that, I feel like the name Switch is definitely still going to be inside of the name of this next system as well. I don't see them just removing the word Switch completely, but of course by having the word Switch inside of it, they're still going to need to figure out a way to be able to differentiate between the current Nintendo Switch and then the brand new one that's going to come out, as that's basically the biggest issue that ran into the Wii U, as they called it the Wii U, and then we just had the normal Wii, where it was very hard to know the difference for people for like what the Wii U was compared to what the Wii, as I still fully believe that if they just called that system the Wii 2, it would have done way better than calling it the Wii U, because we had no idea what the Wii U was supposed to mean. Like, what did the U signify? Like, they kept saying in the marketing, like, it's a system for us, but is it a system for you or something like that? And it was just really all over the place. So they have to figure out a way to still use the word Switch, but also make it so that it's easy for people to know which one is the new one and which one is the old one. Now, like with how the Nintendo 3DS and the Nintendo N64 just used the big feature or gimmick of that system in terms of the name itself, it's possible that Nintendo could try to do something like that with the Switch 2. If there is going to be some type of gimmick with it, then I'm assuming that's probably what they can use in terms of the name itself. So we've heard different things about the system, but we haven't really heard any rumors or leaks about like a potential gimmick or like a crazy new thing that's really going to differentiate it from the current Nintendo Switch. Like, it seems like pretty much everything that we've heard about for this system is that it's just going to be a more powerful system, it's going to be better built, it's going to be better quality, and it's just going to have better things that you can do compared to the current Nintendo Switch. And obviously one of those things is that it's going to have 4K support, as it's rumored to be able to have upscaled 4K using Nvidia's DLSS technology. So it's honestly possible that this system could even just be called the Nintendo Switch 4K, as this is going to be the system that's going to now have 4K capabilities, like how the 3DS had 3D and the N64 was 64-bit. They could just use the naming scheme like that and call it Nintendo Switch 4K, and so that people know that this is the one that can actually do 4K. So it's possible it could be something like that, but we'll just have to wait and see. I mean, with the revision that came out for the Switch, they just called it the Nintendo Switch OLED model, and that's quite literally just what it is. It's a Nintendo Switch with an OLED screen on it, so they just called it the OLED model. So it's possible they could just be completely literal like that, and if it's gonna have 4K, they just call it the Switch 4K. But it seems like Nintendo does like to do unique names a lot, as even just having the 3DS revision, like going from the Nintendo 3DS, they called it the new Nintendo 3DS, which I'm not really a fan of because that system isn't new anymore, but it's still called the new Nintendo 3DS. And then even with like the Game Boy, going from the Game Boy Color, we had the Game Boy Advance, so they didn't just call it like Game Boy 3 or Game Boy 2 for the Game Boy Color, because they just go by what that system is actually about. And of course Game Boy Color added color, so they called it the Game Boy Color, and then Game Boy Advance was like, I guess, the most advanced Game Boy that they created, and so because of that they called it the Game Boy Advance. So they really try to avoid using numbers if they can, so it's going to be interesting to see what they call the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, I put up a tweet about this on Twitter as well, where I said here, so we all say Nintendo Switch 2 when referring to the next system because it's the easiest to say, but what will it actually be called? As we get close to the reveal, I want to see if anyone is able to guess the name, so reply with your best predictions to be featured in a new video. And some of the examples I gave here were Super Nintendo Switch, Nintendo Switch Advance, New Nintendo Switch, and Nintendo Switch Plus. And so if we take a look down here into the comments here, somebody did say, how about getting rid of the Switch? And I said they won't. I honestly don't think that they're going to get rid of the name Switch from the actual name of the system itself. I feel like Switch is how they're going to be able to identify, and because the name Nintendo Switch has become such a big mainstream thing, I feel like I can't really see Nintendo just getting rid of that completely. But we got Daniel here saying, to me, I think logically, they don't want to repeat a Wii U situation, so Nintendo Switch 2 would be the easiest way to avoid that. Honestly, calling it the Nintendo Switch 2 would be the most straightforward way for people to get the point across that, like, this is the next new Nintendo system, it's the Nintendo Switch 2, it's a sequel, just like how the PlayStation 5 is a sequel to the PlayStation 4. It's a very easy way of getting the point across, but I just don't think Nintendo would do that because they're not really the type of company who's always done that. Like, they've always kind of had unique names, but then again, that was also a different era of Nintendo. We are under Furukawa now, who seems to be much more numbers and logistics and stuff like that, so maybe he is just going to go for the simple and safe way instead of trying to do something unique and creative like how Iwata did, but I guess we're really just going to have to see. We got Nintendo God here saying Super Nintendo Switch would definitely be the name for Nintendo Switch 2. It's just perfect. Honestly, with all the rumors that we've heard about too, like how the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to have like the colored buttons again, like the SNES and everything, I feel like just calling it Super Nintendo Switch or something like that would just make much more sense. But yeah, just going down here, a lot of people seem to be saying Nintendo Switch Pro. I feel like Nintendo Switch Pro would have been the name for the revision, like what we got for the OLED model, but for a whole next generation system, it's not really what we call like the Pro. Pro is kind of more like kind of in the same generation still, but more of like an upgrade, like how the PlayStation 5 Pro is going to be announced tomorrow from the day that I upload this video, as that's pretty much going to be like the iterative kind of revision that you're going to be getting, but it's still in the PS5 generation, so I don't think that Pro would make a lot of sense. Super Nintendo Switch just sounds perfect. Yeah, I feel like Super Nintendo Switch just makes the most sense. Tris here saying, I still firmly believe that it'll be called the Super Nintendo Switch. It just seems like that makes the most sense. I mean, that's really the name that would make me the most happy, is if they really just call it the Super Nintendo Switch. Anthony here is saying that too. Super Switch or Switch Advance sounds the best. Nintendo Switch Deluxe would be my guess. I mean, that's also another one too, but I feel like Nintendo Switch Deluxe kind of sounds more like a bundle that might come with the system. Like, hey, if you get the Nintendo Switch 2 Deluxe bundle, then you can have the new Mario game included, or it comes with a Pro Controller or something like that. But having the actual system itself be called Nintendo Switch Deluxe, I'm not really sure, but maybe we could see. A lot of people seem to say Super Nintendo Switch though. I guess we'll see though. I mean, a lot of people saying here Super Nintendo Switch sounds so good. I mean, yeah, that's really the one that everybody seems to love. I could see Nintendo Switch Ultra. Ultra, I feel like sounds really kind of like an Apple kind of thing. Like if Apple was naming the next device, they would call it the Nintendo Switch Ultra, like how they have like the Mac Studio Ultra or something like that. But I don't know if Nintendo would really do that. Nintendo Snap or Nintendo Wonder, maybe, but I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. I feel like it doesn't really get the point across that it's the next generation system. New Nintendo Switch, people are saying as well. I don't know how I feel about that, because 20 years from now, it's not going to be called the new Nintendo Switch at that point anymore. So I don't know. I mean, we got here, I feel like it would be called a Super Nintendo Switch or Nintendo Switch Pro. Super, I feel like can get the point across, but Pro, I just feel like unless it's in the same generation, just doesn't make a lot of sense. This is the only one I'm accepting. Yeah, Super Nintendo Switch. Max is saying Nintendo Switch Deluxe or Nintendo Switch Plus. Both of those sound like it would be the name of a real system. Plus, I feel like kind of sounds more like an expansion. Once again, like a Pro model. But who knows? Maybe they will call it like that, and then they'll just have like an extra way of kind of advertising it or something. But yeah, I mean, some people are saying here, I think it will just be called the Nintendo Switch 2. Maybe they will just play it really safe and just call it the Nintendo Switch 2. But I just feel like knowing Nintendo, they've always tried to add some type of twist to it. So I guess we'll see. But yeah, I mean, it seems like a lot of people are saying there's a lot of directions that they can go with it. I'd say Nintendo Switch Plus. I mean, Nintendo Switch Deluxe. It seems like a lot of people are saying either that or Nintendo Switch 2. Switch Attached. I mean, Switch Attached was like one of those rumors that we got like earlier where they were saying that was going to be the name. And some people still kind of believe that with how we're rumored to be getting like magnetic Joy-Cons that are going to attach and snap. So maybe it could be something like that, but I don't know if that would really get the point across that it's going to be the next gen system. But yeah, it seems like a lot of you guys really enjoy Super Nintendo Switch. And honestly, at this point, I feel like I might be a little bit disappointed if it's not going to be called that. But yeah, thank you guys so much for all of your responses. There's just so many of them here. I can't really go through all 160 replies here. But remember, if you ever want to be featured in videos like this, just go ahead and follow me on Twitter at @ActualAero. But yeah, honestly, the reveal for the next generation Nintendo system is probably just around the corner, so I figured I'd make this video and just give some predictions for what I think the name is going to be, and it's going to be interesting to see what Nintendo decides to go with, so definitely be sure to comment your thoughts down below as well. Let me know what you guys think the name for the next gen Nintendo system is going to be, and we can come back after it's been revealed and see if anybody was able to figure it out. Definitely be sure to click that like button if you guys enjoyed the video, and also subscribe to the channel as well. I'm definitely going to have some more videos talking about the Switch 2, so definitely be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on that. And if you don't have anything to say about this, just comment your favorite emoji down below for some engagement. I would really appreciate it. Go follow me on Twitter at @ActualAero so you can be featured in videos, and also join my Discord server as well. We've got a bunch of people in there who are always talking about Pokemon and Smash Bros and Nintendo, so definitely be sure to join that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching.